Special Lotto with Better here, live from the South by Southwest film. What do we call it? Film, music, tech festival?
Well, that's what it used to be.
It used to be a film festival. For those who don't know, this is producing with me outside of the video studio for the first time is Jared, who is not gay. Follow him on Twitter at NotGayJared. Me at S Crowder. I have to fill my legal obligations, draw your own conclusions. By the way, before we get into it, Dr. Mike Simpson will be on with us to talk about physiology and obesity and whether that has negative health ramifications. Hint. Well, you can't hear me. It kind of does. Of course, Army Ranger Tim Kennedy will be with us to talk about free speech, because guess what? He's fought for free speech.
He has fought for it, so he probably knows a thing or two.
Kind of a big deal about it. And we'll be talking about the Cenk fallout over there at his panel and why that happened and why I was such a douche.
A douche.
A little bit. But it was well warranted in this instance. It's the first time you've seen me act that way, and hopefully the last. So, for those who don't know, South by Southwest was one of the biggest music film festivals for a while. It still is.
It still is. It's massive.
But it's
transformed. It takes over the entire city.
The whole city. Right here, we're on 2nd Street between Lavaca and Colorado at a coffee shop that shall not be named lest they see this broadcast. ALottoWithCrowder.com/mugclub, by the way. So,
what front did we use to get in here, by the way?
What I think we said we were part of the National People's Front for Palestine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
They were right on board. Our Jewish EP loved that. We said handouts for Hamas.
They were on board.
They were surprised that Hamas used the term handouts, but that's because they're trying to be international.
That's true.
So it's an activist festival now. So it was tech festival.
It's been totally just overrun.
Right, which for a long time it was tech.
Yeah.
And then tech turned into activism, which is kind of ironic when you think about it. You would think tech would be sort of a neutral atmosphere, but a very, very far left.
It's not. They see it as a tool.
Yeah.
A tool to spread their activist message. A tool to get their
Speak louder. They already don't like you anyway.
They don't like me. Peeking. No one likes me.
Peeking on the sound. So, I've been to South by Southwest before.
First time.
For those who've seen where we did the net neutrality video, Al Franken was here. They were protesting the idea of a free and open internet. What was your first impression here at South by Southwest?
First, lots of people with blue hair.
Yeah.
For one.
Lots of blue hair.
And you kind of kind of knew their politics
blue
right
hair
away.
Is like you'd find in an old Episcopal church.
No.
He means dyed blue hair from people who hate America.
Yeah. Is that a symbol of American hatred?
It's a symbol. It's like the bat signal, except for angry lesbians. So you notice that.
First thing I noticed was we talked about this. We talked. Hey, we're going to go into some panels.
By the way, we'll be having today's show is all packages, hidden camera panels. We have one where we went to My Body Is Not Safe for Work and an anti-free speech panel. So you'll be seeing those packages. Sorry, go ahead.
My thought was like, hey, we need to find some panels to go to. And I thought it was going to be difficult to figure out which ones to crash.
Right.
We pull up the schedule of events, and it could not have been more in our face. It was like, how do we even choose? Because
it was like a buffet of poor decisions.
It was a buffet of poor decisions. A smorgasbord. It
was a cornucopia.
Yes, of bad decisions. And it was so blatant. They didn't even try to hide it. Within the titles of the panels.
Yeah.
It was blatant. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but it was bad.
My Body's Not Safe for Work. There was the discussing Nazism online, encouraging illegal immigration, a whole bunch of activist panels, of course.
Yep.
I didn't see not a single one from an alternative point of view.
No.
Our producer there's looking at, are we good with sound and everything? He's looking up, he's giving, it's always worrisome when you're out here.
It's worrisome.
Thanks to our security, by the way, who's been keeping us safe out here. Not a single dissenting point of view. And you'll see this with these panels, whether it's the Fat Pride panel or the Free Speech panel. What really struck me is this is supposed to be a coalition of artists, coalition of creative people, and they are all unanimously fighting for less rights, for less freedom. My dad has talked about that on the show. That to me is shocking. To have artists saying we want less free speech.
And I think it's weird too, because you think of artists, you think of people who spend their entire lives trying to differentiate themselves and their art from other people's art. But yet when it comes to thought, it comes to their political opinions and ideologies and their worldview.
Ideologies.
It's just so uniform.
Yeah. You can get away with it though because he actually has an IQ that qualifies him as mentally retarded, and so that's why he got a special badge. He could get into anything. Get into any panel he wanted.
Use it to your advantage.
Okay, so let's set up the first panel because we're going to bring in a doctor. This was one. We didn't know what to expect, right? We go into these panels. The only one that we actually disrupted was Cenk of the Young Turks. We'll get to that at the end. We went in, we respected their rules, and when they opened it up to questions, we asked them questions. But the first one was, My Body Is Not Safe for Work. It was about intersectional feminism and body pride, fat pride, with three portly activists. So before we get to our questions and then what people on the street thought, let's show you the kind of discussion that was taking place on this panel.
Concerned trolling, I think, is a big thing in general in this space, and it's like, are you actually concerned? Do you actually care at all about my well-being?
Because if you did, maybe you wouldn't be harassing me because it's not great for my mental health.
It's the gateway to basically just saying, I don't like you, I don't like what I'm seeing. We know that we aren't supposed to be mean to people. That's another very popular idea and a good one, that we're not supposed to bully, we're not supposed to call people names and wag fingers. So we express worry over them instead. But it all amounts to the same. It all amounts to the same as don't show me what you're showing me.
But for me, it really is about just reclaiming it and saying, like, I'm fat, and the fact that you still find me attractive is your problem. If you see a fat girl online who hates herself and is in sweatpants and talking about how miserable she is and crying, people are much more likely to be supportive of her diet and her exercise. But when you're confident and you're saying, I love myself and here I am in a bikini and I'm okay as I am, immediately people have, really strong feelings about that.
I'm also, I don't know, voluptuous. Sure, I have really big boobs, I guess, but I am fat, and that's okay.
So seeing right there, we kind of knew what we were in for.
Yep. It's kind of obvious once we got in there and heard the first three patriarchies and
Concern trolling, the term that she talks about.
yes,
How it's all the same. How wanting to help someone is literally the same as insulting them.
yes, obviously.
So it was a preemptive strike against the questions that we were about to ask. I had a question, and then I had Jared ask a question. So mine was purely statistical, physiological as far as the health risks you'll see. And then Jared's, if I was the jab, Jared was the cross for the ultimate triggering. Tell them, though, there's something they don't see. And yet, I wrote down for you the question to ask.
Yep.
But remember, I also wrote down for you.
You wrote down the response for me because you predicted to the T what their comeback would be to my original question.
Yeah, and
And
then
it was
I saw
almost-
you look down and smirk.
I thought they were reading my notes. So,
Okay, so let's go to this. When they open the floor to Q&A, I had a question and Jared had a question, and triggering ensues.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Oh.
It's a straight white male, don't hold it against me. You touched on something which I think is important earlier about healthcare, affordable access to healthcare
Yes.
being, I think you said a human right. So in that sense, with the fact that people who are overweight, like myself, or obese, are 3 to 7 times more likely to develop diabetes or cost $256 billion more per year, isn't that a concern of the taxpayer? And don't they have a right to have an opinion? And just like smoking, encourage healthier body styles if the taxpayer is involved in this decision?
I mean, this is obviously an incredibly nuanced conversation. I think it starts a lot younger and a lot earlier than by the time anyone has developed some of those issues or gained the weight. I think you can't talk about that without also talking about the food industry and corn subsidies and access to health care for prenatal care and early childhood intervention and education. You can't just talk about fat people have diabetes and have more likelihood to end up with diseases that cost the taxpayer without talking about the entire approach to body's health, our access to food, water. Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water, hasn't for 3 years.
If we see a statistical risk pool, do we also agree that insurance companies should have the right to discriminate in that sense based
I do
on
not.
cost?
I think none of us would agree that it's okay to discriminate against fat bodies up here, but
If you are, excluding people or penalizing people based on size, you are not just discriminating based on size, you're also discriminating based on, a number of things, including racial and ethnic backgrounds, for example.
we're both gluten-free, etc., because of our conditions. And that being said, I am very much someone who wants to promote living in healthy ways, but I don't equate that necessarily to a certain size.
But if there's a 700% chance more likelihood of someone, developing heart disease or diabetes,
Of course,
shouldn't we promote that, for kids who are coming up?
we agreed that
Want to lose weight,
yeah,
that's the biggest
no,
risk
we should
factor.
not promote to lose weight. We should promote
should.
healthy behaviors.
There's a much larger issue of the way we stigmatize bodies, the way they're approached in the medical and health industry, the way that the medical industrial complex is structured in general.
I appreciate you putting this on. We're all learning a lot.
Great.
Question for you. You talked about some studies, and I'm sure there's probably a lot of studies out there, but there's been several studies that show that when polling men, for instance, this one out of New South Wales in Sydney, the study involved almost 60,000 volunteers rating almost 1,000 variations of the female figure, and what the discovery was that more attractive ones are almost always tall and thinner rather than large and curvy. Question for you is it possible that within fighting the idea of body shaming, there's actually a possibility of shaming natural male biology that prefers thinner, leaner, healthier women?
What about
I think
what about that survey says it's natural male biology and not societal?
I think a lot of that is socialized. I think a lot of our preferences are socialized.
Were they asking babies?
That's something that's really apparent when you go to other cultures and ask their preferences. Like our attraction is so much socialized.
Of course it is.
Well, they found that this is actually true across generationally.
The idea that people men just biologically come out of the womb attracted to thin, tall women is like ridiculous.
Well, is it possible
and
that
also, I am really offended by the two male comments. I mean, it's not surprising to me that the two white males asked those two questions. Can we have this woman's question, please?
Is it possible that there's
No, we're not taking your
that healthy
You're allowed to be attracted to whoever you're attracted to. There's nothing wrong with that. If a person is not attracted to me because my body is larger, I don't care. There's a million of other people who are. In fact, I wish fewer men
would
would.
you say to men who feel shamed?
Nobody's shaming you for
shaming
liking
you.
thin women. That's not the problem. We don't care.
But I think it's okay.
Can you tell that it's wrong to not find certain body types attractive?
No, I'm not sure where that's coming
This
from.
magazine that they
Yes,
monitor.
Sir, the answer to your question is no, there is no shaming regarding this. Yes, please.
They came in here with the attention to like troll us, which is hilarious and not surprising.
And we have a third person here. As you watch this, we come back from that package. He just watched it with us. He has a podcast, the Sheepdog Project.
The Sheepdog Project?
Sheepdog Project. I haven't given him the mic yet. You don't get to come in yet. He is a doctor. He actually knows what he's talking about. Dr. Mike Simpson. Okay, doctor.
Hello.
In your professional opinion, you saw what we discussed here.
I'm afraid I did, yes.
What's your opinion? First off, was I wrong in insinuating that being obese multiplies your risk factors for health issues?
No, you were 100% correct.
Okay,
First
so
of all,
not hate speech.
Not hate speech at all.
Okay.
Citing medical facts, I don't know how somebody could construe that as hate speech.
I know.
And here's something that I ask people all the time. How many morbidly obese 70-year-olds have you ever seen?
That's a good point. I just thought we ate them all.
No,
Or Reza Aslan.
pretty much by that time we've whittled them down by amputating them below the knee and everything else. So,
well, that's actually a good point because in the PubMed study that I was citing, it actually talked about there are some people who are overweight who are just as healthy, but they couldn't predict it, and even metabolically deficient people who didn't have metabolic disease who were overweight compared to their thinner counterparts in the long term always had health problems.
Yes.
So they said when you actually take this study and remove it from 25, 35 years old, as soon as they get older, the risk factors are exponential.
Exponentially. That's your body can compensate for it up to a point.
Right.
And the age time frame that you're talking about, that's typically when your body says,
right,
all right, we've been trying to do this, now I'm just giving up.
Yeah. Well, kind of like Jared with the antibodies for the AIDS.
It's true. How do you think they reconcile their opinions of fat pride and basically pro-diabetes with Darwinian survival of the fittest, natural selection?
Well,
good point.
That's the point that I try to make to people is that the new average is not the new normal. It's never going to be the new normal.
Right.
Okay. The obesification of America, of Western society, just because, and you hear that thrown out there, well, the average dress size is whatever, or the average weight size is whatever. Okay, that's not what we were engineered through evolution and genetics to live like. So that is not normal. Yes, is it average? Absolutely. But it's not normal. Yeah. So now what we're doing is as the obesification continues, we're trying to drive that into societal normalcy. Okay,
right.
See it more on television. Big pushes to get more obese characters on television shows, things of that nature.
And it's a big push. We do have to go. Before we go, I want to show what people thought on the street. It's funny that you mentioned that because I have hypothyroidism. And my doctor, I've talked about this several times, and I do recommend people go get checked, get a full blood workup, your hormones, your thyroid, testosterone.
Sure.
You know, my doctor, just a family doctor, cash only, doesn't deal with insurance companies, so he actually has a vested interest in me being healthy.
Absolutely.
I said, well, what are the normal TSH ranges? I won't get into T3, T4. He says, well, doctors will say the normal range is 0.5 to 5. He goes, however, that includes people who have hypothyroidism. It's including sick people. He goes, so when you remove that, the actual healthy range, when you remove the metabolically ill, it's about 0.5 to 2.5. I said, so we want to get you in that range, especially as someone who's athletic. And that was a real eye-opener for me. And he gave me all of these ranges as opposed to what is normal. For example, what is a normal triglyceride level, your cholesterol? Well, that range includes people with diabetes.
Yes, and I've seen it, especially with triglycerides and cholesterol, that people will say, well, I'm just above normal. They don't realize that we have moved the goalpost on what is normal. So they shouldn't be shooting for just above normal or I'm barely within normal.
Yeah.
Because we've done that on a bell curve. That's an average.
Right.
The same is true for basic metabolic index, how fat somebody is,
Right.
cholesterol. When I have patients come in who are diabetic and I say, what was your last hemoglobin A1C? Many of them cannot tell me, first of all, and for those that don't know, that's a marker of what your blood sugar has been serially over like a 90-day period. Most of them say, oh, I'm doing good, I'm just above where my doctor wants me to be.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be just above where your doctor wants you to be.
That could be blood type pudding.
Like I have an average IQ.
Right.
But you shouldn't settle for you should strive for be better.
Right, because it includes sling blade.
It does.
But this is why you traditionally have looked for stupider friends too.
It has been.
We know
they've
that's
been great
true.
friends.
It's true. Yes, you can tell a man by who he picks his friends. Well, you're still practicing, so we'll
I
talk
am.
about the prescription for painkillers after this. But I do want to go to Man in the Street here. We asked people in Austin what they thought about the Fat Pride movement, and the answers might surprise you. Body shaming, fat shaming panel. A lot of big women there were talking about how it's discriminatory to encourage weight loss. This idea of certain body types are healthier or ideal. What do you think? Should we as a society be able to encourage weight loss, healthy weights, healthy lifestyles, or is that bullying?
I don't think it's bullying because we're not forcing it, we're encouraging it. So that doesn't mean they have to do it.
There's a movement now, no body shaming, but they've taken ownership over it, calling it, what do you mean, oh no? Let me ask the question. What was your reaction on that?
I don't like fat shaming. I feel like everybody's perfect.
Obesity problem in the United States.
Yes, you do.
Well, okay, yeah, I'm sure you've noticed.
I think you have to pay attention to your health, and as society, we should be helping educate on health and things like that.
I definitely think we should encourage healthy lifestyles and weight loss.
I don't see what the harm is. If your weight is having an impact on your health, then your health needs to be the priority, not your emotional state.
It's just a fact. If you're unhealthier, then it's going to cost more to take care of you. That's kind of how it goes, I think. So
See, full circle back to hate speech. That's hate speech now. See the challenge?
What is hate speech?
They would argue that is hate speech on that panel. That what you just said, that being fatter costs more, therefore insurance companies should be allowed to charge
That's
you.
just a fact, in my opinion.
But they say it's hate speech.
Interesting. Okay.
Back with Dr. Mike Simpson, the thing that surprised me was internationally, it wasn't considered a political issue. Like the South Korean, he didn't, even English people were like, no, yeah, Americans, you're this fat, you need to fix it. It wasn't considered hate speech at all. We weren't saying, walk up to him like, you fat, I hope you die, or like just like cram, plus we didn't force them to like cram cookies in their mouth.
Outside of like second grade, I don't think I've ever seen anybody do anything like that.
No, and nobody wants to see anybody bullied. But they framed it in to the point, and I want to talk with you about this, where even advocating losing weight, which is an important biological marker, they considered to be an assault. They called it concern trolling, which you went just apoplectic when you said that.
I have a really hard time with that, especially since, number one, I have a moral and ethical obligation as a physician to discuss that with overweight patients.
Yeah.
It's also mandated by certain governing bodies that I have to discuss that with patients.
Sure.
So now you're telling me what I am obligated to do by the oath that I took and what the government actually has on a checklist that I must discuss with you. The moment you get on the scale in my emergency room and you're over a certain basic metabolic index, that triggers a question on the electronic medical record. Did you discuss weight control with this patient? Just like if you say I'm a smoker, did you discuss smoking cessation? So now you're telling me that I am trolling you because I'm doing what I'm required to do. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, because of the Affordable Care Act and many other governmental restrictions, if I don't ask you that question, I don't get to bill for full price for that chart. Now, I don't care. I'm not in this for the money. I am in it because I care about people's health. But don't accuse me of trolling when I'm telling you you are going to die. Your kidneys are failing. Okay, you're gonna have your legs amputated.
Look at the dialysis
okay?
machine. This is really hateful bullshit.
We're in a coffee shop.
You don't know me, dialysis.
Your arteries are skinnier than the coffee stirrer stick. Okay, you can't live when your red blood cells are marching single file to get oxygen to your heart. That's bad. That's bad. Okay, when they're having to weave their way in and out of big balls of fat.
Yeah,
that's a bad thing.
I picture just one day their heart's gonna be like.
Now, actually, it's going to do like the Kung Fu Panda. It's going to go.
Yeah, exactly. It is remarkable, and we've reached a point where where we've been sort of been told objectively that you're the science denier. If you're critical, if you're skeptical, and now we've reached a point where just basic biology, whether it's male, female. I mean, that's another thing you have to ask on the chart. I'm sure male, female is one of the first thing you ask, and that determines biological markers, right? As far as what's acceptable for weight, what's acceptable for body fat.
It's literally the first thing when I open a chart is your age and your gender are right there.
Well, doctors today, like Mike Simpson, Dr. Mike Simpson, might as well be a Grand Dragon Wizard of the KKK. You heard it here first. Dr. Michael Simpson. We're going to have to bring Tim Kennedy out.
Disappointing.
Because we have a free speech panel to discuss. Where's the best place for people to find you?
I'm on Twitter at Dr. Mike Simpson, and I'm also on iTunes on my podcast, The Sheepdog Project.
Sheepdog Project. That's right. Now, as a doctor, I would imagine that'd be pretty interesting because there are a lot of podcasts out there, people who talk about diet, lifestyle, and they have no idea what they're talking about.
Very true. There's a lot of charlatans out there.
Yeah.
To put it mildly.
Yeah.
But when we all have access to Wikipedia, it's hard to resist.
I'll tell you
we
what.
all have the facts.
There's a coffee next to the Crowder mug, which is
Hand-Ash World Class.
Hand-Ash World Class.
There's
my second favorite mug is there's one out there that says, "Please do not confuse Google with my medical degree."
Yes. I will tell you this. At one point, I thought they were one and the same. But today you've proven me wrong.
You'd be surprised.
Dr. Mike Simpson.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
Well,
Thank you, sir.
You can stick around if you want. We're going to set up this next one, and then we're going to bring out Tim Kennedy. I realize I shouldn't have let him go. This is new.
I'll stick around.
On location. We're going to be talking about free speech. So this was we did the Fat Broad panel. Thank you. And then we had to do a panel on free speech. What was this titled? Not Gay Jared?
Titled? Oh gosh, Nazi, hate speech, Nazi.
Fighting something Nazis.
Something along that.
Fighting extremism was a panel from ISIS to Nazis. Not a whole lot of mention of ISIS. More so discussion on Nazis. You would expect to just walk out of this panel and it would look like a scene from Inglourious Bastards right there. Apparently Nazis have made a comeback. So
apparently Triumph of the Will just came out last year.
Yes, exactly. And it was one of these issues, we'll talk about this with Tim. I didn't expect it to be as brash. Did you not get Jared?
I thought it was going to be much more under the skin, a little more subtle, a little more kind of undercover. It was not.
No, it was not. This to me was most disturbing. I know that Fat Broad thing is funny, but it still frames in hate speech, this Orwellian society of what you can and cannot say. But this panel specifically on freedom of speech online, what we need to do about it, I thought was really concerning. And let's lead it off with Germans, by the way, Germans of all people. So, listen, how world wars under your belt? All of them. Okay. I look in your eyes. I see a little bit of Holocaust. Now, I'm not saying you do it. What you think about it? Germans right away talking about censoring speech. Anytime I hear we must do this,
so glad
I get
I'm on camera for this.
Uncomfortable. Let's go to what they were saying about social media and what we need to do with speech first. Then we'll get to my question. Dr. Mike Simpson, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Stand for example, diversity, equality, or things like that. If it's easier for you, let's make it this way around. And this was the same with the Online Civil Courage Initiative of Facebook. We talked to Facebook for quite years now, since 2010.
So in different parts of Europe, the issue of protected speech is very much linked, I think, to different histories. It's not blanket across the European Union or the continent. I personally don't think that all types of speech are protected and ought not to be protected.
There are definitely some things in this conversation that seem really concerning. I noticed you're talking about some sort of intangible variables that can't really be quantified as to what's allowed on Facebook or YouTube. Who defines what a Nazi is or a right-wing extremist? As someone who has been accused of being that several times, officially by organizations like Antifa. care, not allowed to travel to certain countries. I'm sure you're aware of people like Tommy Robinson who've been jailed for speech. Since none of this can be quantified, why don't we err on the side of freedom? I mean, if I'm an alt-right Nazi who literally probably supports Israel more than anyone in this room and was a Carly Fiorina voter in the primaries, and my EP is Jewish, and he's my other producer who's gay, who gets to define it? Why should we ban any speech online?
Thank you, Stephen. So the issue of definitions, I think, is a very vital one, because I do think that certain types of speech are not protected. The question is, okay, no, you got your question, so I get to answer.
But I've heard you say what is not protected?
So I get to answer my. And then you, if you want to come back up and ask more questions, then maybe the chair will allow you.
But that wasn't
the question about definitions, I think, is a very difficult one, because again, who's going to agree on how this works? And in different countries, it goes through different types of legislation. In an ideal situation, there's a societal discussion about what should be permitted and what should be permitted, what sort of incitement should be permitted, what sort of incitement should not. Incitement to violence, I think most people agree, should not be considered to be protected speech.
But that's not speech, that's an actual offense.
Right now, your speech is not protected.
Okay, we have to get to this.
Thank you, so thank you very much. Sit down.
Okay.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Okay.
One is a felony, one
Okay,
is a
so
word.
thank you very much. You've asked your question.
I didn't ask about inciting violence, I asked
Okay.
about speech.
Speech, no, we're talking about speech that incites violence. That's speech. Speech is very clearly
This is
a line. We're only talking about speech here, but some speech is like go forth and kill all of these certain kinds of people. That's speech. That's a felony. And it is, yeah, so that's where the line is.
When it comes to definitions, again, you are going to have different approaches in different places. In the UK, certain types of speech are not permitted that would be permitted in the United States. We've seen that many times, and I think that there's a genuine discussion that can be had between proponents of different approaches. And we shouldn't assume that our approach, or your approach, or anybody else's approach has all of the answers.
Head over. But you didn't answer my question. It's what is hate speech and who defines it? You did a great job. You didn't. What's the answer, sir? You said if someone yells fire in a theater, that's not allowed. I agree. He is right now, I believe.
Can you switch that off?
Sure. We're going to free speech. It is a single-party consent state. I just would like the answer as far as.
Okay, can you just switch? I
can back up for you.
You don't need to in a single-party consent state. You didn't answer my question. It's a respectful question. What is hate speech and who defines it?
Actually telling you I
You know, bring people in the middle of packages and they come back and it's just, the show has already gone to hell in a handbasket. I would introduce him, I would talk about his podcast or his Twitter, but I don't want to now after he fondled my producer here. You know him, he's at Tim Kennedy MMA, of course, host of Hunting Hitler. I think there's a new season coming out. Tim Kennedy.
Yeah.
Sir.
Good afternoon.
Okay, come on now. You don't need to serious it up. Yeah, I already have a microphone. You just hold it to you.
Just hold it. I know what to do with this. Feels so natural.
Have this mic drink out of that. Enjoy it.
So you saw right away, before we get to our questions, you saw what they were talking about, specifically with Facebook and the idea of free speech. And you had what we need to do, really talking about curating unpopular speech on Facebook. So we'll get to our questions where it gets really heated. But you had a meeting recently, right?
Yeah. I was at Facebook last week, and I was actually speaking there.
Yeah.
Kind of an internal question and answer segment about social ambassadors and what it's like, what it means, how do you use the platform, building a brand, the positive negatives of I guess this industry, of this new millennial era of the fast, the quick, the easy, the easily accessible, what that looks like on Facebook. So after the question and answer, I got some time to ask my own questions, which is why do you intentionally suppress speech?
Yeah.
Why is it that people that don't align with your narrative are then penalized?
Did the answers quell your fears, or did they make them worse?
Oh, it made them way worse.
Really?
Yeah. What I thought was
killed people.
Yeah. What I thought was like reasonable. It's libertarian, right? That is their company. They have the right to do anything that they want, except that now they're moving into being able to shape what speech looks like.
Right.
And then that infringes on kind of
Well, I think the problem is they've been falsely courting people where we think it's an open dialogue of ideas, particularly pages like ours that run on news, and we do our best to be honest. You know, they courted us and told us to advertise with their platforms, and now we're saying, except we want to get rid of certain points of view.
Yeah, it's everything's. We love free speech as long as it's in line with what we say.
Right.
And if it's not, then we're going to penalize you. We're going to make sure that you occur less frequently on other people's feeds. If you use words that we don't like Constitution or freedom of speech or Second Amendment or liberty or any of the things that I believe in, having bled and fought and sweat for those things, and hope for those things. I think those are important.
Okay.
They're important.
Okay, but let's toss to this our question. Here where we actually asked them, I think a pretty pertinent question about hate speech, who defines it, and usually I like to sit back and get an answer, but I felt the need to call them on it. I have never seen such doublespeak. We'll see what Tim Kennedy thinks. Watch this. And you saw that package, right? Okay, so we'll come back to that.
Man, I can look at packages.
All right, we're back with Tim Kennedy. So you watched that. No answer at all as to what hate speech is, who defines it, no understanding of a single-party consent state. I thought that was great to tie it back in. Did that concern you?
Yeah, so the convenience about wanting to define a thing is that you want to be able to change the definition so it aligns with what you use and how you can manipulate the message.
Yeah.
So if you have a narrative, but your narrative is never logical. Right. It is not something that's ever concrete. You want to be able to.
Someone's smoking pot.
Yeah, that is pot.
Welcome to Austin.
Toucan Sam is high as hell somewhere. Follow your nose! Oh boy. Don't send him to South by Southwest.
Our security right now is like, let's
Yeah,
get those guys.
I don't know what's
It's our security guy.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It smells like burnt onions.
Oh,
Go ahead.
it's
Sorry.
impressive. I mean, that's why they never want to be nailed down into what a specific thing is, because they'll have to be held to it.
Yeah.
And they want to be able to conform it at their convenience, at their leisure, for whatever their narrative and their propaganda is at that moment.
Well, what I find so even more so compelling than that is not only did they not answer the question, and we'll have another video on this, by the way, for those who are Mug Club subscribers, louderwithbetter.com/Mug Club. We have longer raw files of all of these incidents, so you can see more and get more context. Sometimes we have some really good
God bless
conversations
America.
that can't make the cut. I don't think they're your fans.
They don't like us.
Not only did they they weren't supporters of free speech, they didn't have a single person on a panel about fighting back against extremism. They didn't have a single person who thought, you know what, maybe the First Amendment is absolute, or you know what, maybe we should be doing less to suppress speech. They didn't just have a person who had that opinion. That scared me even more.
Yes, it's like, listen, if somebody yells fire in a movie theater, that's not freedom of speech. Like, yeah, you're right. That's a felony.
Yeah.
There's no question.
It's fraud.
Yeah, so stop using that as to support the narrative that you can then curb what somebody's allowed to say.
Well,
That's a crime.
or you can say, go kill this guy here. I'm like,
no, you can't.
This is Ivy League educated. These people are Ivy League educated, and that's their argument against freedom of speech.
You call me a knuckle dragger pretty frequently. I do have a significant amount of hair on my hands.
Wow. Can I see those?
Yeah. A few generations removed from
Those
climbing
nice
a tree. But I know the difference between breaking the law and freedom of speech.
Yeah, I know.
And as long as you're on like you said, let's err on the side of freedom.
Yeah.
So if we're always just like, man, I don't know what this means, cool. Let's just err on the side of letting us do what we're supposed to do, which is be free and independent people.
Well, exactly. And I want to go to, we did some man in the street here, and we went to ask the people of Austin what they thought about freedom of speech. Listen, is it absolute? And I think some of the answers might surprise you. That's a catch line. With an answer that might surprise you. Your opinion, should freedom of speech be absolute?
So in regards to hate speech, do we think that should be limited? Is that what you're saying?
Is freedom of speech absolute?
I don't think it's all the way absolute. I think obviously you should be able to express your opinion, but when that opinion can put other people in harm.
You can't censor what people have to say without kind of impeding on all of our natural rights.
Is freedom of speech an absolute?
Yes, especially since we live in America where they gave us that right. Yes, we need to voice our opinion on what we believe and what we stand for.
You can't shout fire in a building. It's not, because that'll hurt people.
Right.
So that's not right. But I feel like you can express your opinion as long as it doesn't directly hurt someone else.
It should be determined on how you're expressing yourself.
Okay.
I think freedom of speech should be open, but I think the quality control of what's being said is up to the audiences that want to listen.
Even if it's completely offensive to someone else?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially if it's completely offensive. That's freedom of speech, right?
We are back with Special Forces Tim Kennedy, former MMA fighter, one of the best at Tim Kennedy MMA. Since we were talking about freedom of speech, he's fought for our right to... Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No. You don't get to cut us. This is the show. Are you feeling like you don't get to say we are back?
You're me get behind.
What do you want me to get behind the camera?
I don't know what's happening.
I don't know what he's doing.
Hey, no, stop. You say we are back and see if he challenges you. Go ahead.
And we're back.
He's not saying anything.
He doesn't say anything.
That's
Curious.
just
not challenged at all.
I mean,
It's
I'm
a
not
valid
anti-Sem-
point that you just brought up.
I'm not anti-Semitic, but he's doing nothing for perpetuating the shifty stereotype. You know?
Seriously.
Look at the eyes. They
looking
dart.
at it.
They dart.
I look for Nazis occupationally these days.
So one thing, it was funny that there were some people who said, ooh, that's. I don't want to answer that because it's a trick question. I just said, is the First Amendment, is freedom of speech absolute? Oh, the answers from Americans, I guess I've never really thought about it. Which I think sometimes we try to get out of our bubble and echo chamber.
Yeah.
I know we constantly engage in a form of ideas with leftists, but then sometimes you forget about this big swath of the country, certainly people who aren't activists on either side. How many Americans just have literally never thought of Amendment number 1, do you think?
The first thing.
Yeah.
The one that appears, I mean, we kind of
It's
have
to-do list, eat breakfast. Well, I forgot that.
I know, I've never even thought about it before.
I just hopscotched to smoking crack.
Constitutional rights.
I don't understand. It really just eludes me that somebody has never considered why America is special.
Right.
And that is because of our freedoms.
Right.
And that's it. That is the only reason why we have become and were and have been for a couple of generations the most special country in the world.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem, though, is that people are being taught now that America is not special, that America is
We're
bad.
special. We're special.
We're bad. But
They
that's the
think
line of
everybody
thought
gets a
being
medal,
taught.
but it's like, yeah, but we actually get more gold medals than anyone.
Well, you got the Bernie Sanders of the world saying we should not.
Combine. When I used to live in Canada, I'd be like, shit, the Americans got another gold medal in the Olympics. They'd be like, we got a bronze.
But you had the Bernie Sanders of the world telling us we should be less like America, and I think that gets into people's heads like there's something wrong with what we are, and maybe it's our First Amendment. Let's start there. That's when they take a look at it.
Yes, and I do want to put one thing in there. You cannot remove, and Tim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, when Bernie Sanders praises Denmark, praises Europe and the UK for their socialized healthcare, here's the thing. You cannot remove the totalitarianism, the authoritarianism approach to speech, and keep the economic authoritarianism.
Yeah.
That is their culture, and it's very different from the culture that you fought to preserve.
Yeah, they're almost like mutually exclusive. Like,
Right.
You can't have one without the other, and you can. The uniqueness of you can say something that can make my blood boil.
Yeah.
And you should be allowed to say that.
Yeah.
Unless what you're saying affects one of my freedoms,
Right.
you can say whatever you want.
I know.
And that's not.
You kind of
the rest
look like the
world.
sidekick of the goon in the Flintstones cartoons.
Did he?
The one who's the big strong one, like, duh, boss, I'll go kill them, boss. He's like, certainly, you dummy, bong.
Does he have a propensity for violence?
Yes.
Oh, he does?
Because he has the big knuckles. It's just the big guy and the brow. Well, I mean, there's no secret to you. I think you know that you've had your nose.
It's big.
I wanted to see how much it would take to trigger you. Apparently, it was unsuccessful. But the point is, I should have the right to say that.
Well, 100%. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
As long as what you say doesn't affect my freedoms, I hope it makes my blood boil. I hope the things that people say can contradict my own opinions.
Right.
Because that's the point of what we fight for. That's the reason why we're in Syria. That's because if somebody walked on the street with that flag right there, they'd be thrown off a rooftop.
It's true.
Like, that's not freedom of speech.
I know.
Whereas here, you can burn our own country's flag, and that is a protected form of speech.
Yeah.
Don't do it in front of me because I might knock your teeth in.
That's not legal.
I know it's not. That would be assault.
Yes. So you readily acknowledge it.
100%. I realize that is your protected freedom of speech, and I celebrate.
Well, actually, there's even an argument about that because it's not speech; it's an act. And so I actually do err on the side as a libertarian of supporting that. But freedom of expression is not a constitutionally protected right. Freedom of speech is. A lot of people get that wrong.
And you also can't remove the fact that there are consequences for your actions.
That's true.
So I have seen. I don't know how many of my friends' bodies draped with flags, so that flag is very meaningful to me.
Sure.
Now, while I do recognize that you have that right, and I'm not protected in knocking your teeth in, I still might do that. I don't know.
No, he probably won't do it.
I don't know.
You're on camera. He probably won't do it. So
I don't know.
Okay, speaking of which, freedom of speech. Now you know because we don't necessarily agree on everything, and you see me, whether it's Joe Rogan, Mark Duplass. Do I not get in on that?
Here's
Hand Edge Mug. Mark Duplass, Christopher Titus, Sally Cohn, Michael Ian Black. We have a lot of liberals on our show, and we disagree all the time. And my thing is kind of, you can probably understand this, with grappling or training, matching intensity, right? You're not going to just smash a white belt and hurt him. But if someone comes in and rolls with you and wants to, take your arm as a trophy because it's Tim Kennedy, you're going to match that intensity. That's the rule with training, right?
Yeah, you kick it up a notch, I'm going to meet wherever that is.
If only for personal safety. That's our rule on the show. So a lot of people weren't thrilled with what we did with Cenk. You watched this? Cenk Uygur?
Oh, yes.
Your thoughts?
Man.
Very uncomfortable to watch, hence the answer.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable. Like that, if anybody deserved that, not even that having an opportunity, like if he would just at once have a discussion with you, let you have the opportunity and him have the opportunity under the First Amendment to have a discussion, to let each other's ideas go through the refiner's fire. Let it be thrown up the air and see which comes back down, what's actually worth a grain of salt.
Throw them in the ring together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the deal with Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. I think we have a veteran supporter here. I think she's a fan of yours. The thing with the Young Turks, for people who don't know, a lot of people say you're bullying. Yeah. I often bully people with 5 times the subscribership and millions of dollars that we don't have. Cenk Uygur spread rumors and would slander not only my friends but myself. When I was a 21-year-old kid with a very small YouTube channel, the physical assault that occurred at the Lansing rally, and after he spread these rumors, went out in the attack on his channel, I consistently invited him on to discuss so we could clear the air. I invited Cenk to do exactly what you see us do on the show every week with leftists who are invited. We tend to be respectful. Sometimes it gets escalated. And there was refusal after refusal after refusal. And then there was a debate with Dinesh D'Souza where right away he just turned to the crowd. His main thing is turning to the audience. You got divorced! You went to prison! Everything is a personal attack. And so for me, this discussion could never take place unless it occurred this way. So I want people to understand we don't have any plans to do this with anyone else except the guy who drew first blood and then hides behind a channel. And I think that's fair.
Listen, if you go up and you pick a fight and then you run and hide behind, but everything that's wrong with that idea and the culture that is like, listen, I can say whatever I want, but I'm never going to let anybody else argue with me because they don't agree with me. So then I'm going to hide behind what I say by guns, protected bodyguards. That's like saying I'm against the Second Amendment, but I'm going to have everybody around me have guns. Or I'm for the First Amendment, but you can't agree with me. You can't even disagree with me. Like that's what this is, and that's exactly what he embodies. Opportunity after opportunity, he has never shown up to have that discussion. So,
and when he does, and here's the thing, we never ever attack, we never rest on the laurels of our numbers. We don't just go out and say, hey, we have these many people watching us. We have a pretty good reach, as you probably know, having been on the show.
Solid.
We're very grateful for it. Jared, you've noticed this, not Jared. Cenk's arguments are always, look how many people we have. His very first thing was to turn to the audience. We would have never said, hey, he didn't have a show up, except for the fact that his only argument is, you're dying, everyone else doesn't like you.
Trying to ride my coattails, my success.
Very homophobic, by the way. That's the bullying comments. And of course, we went
Ride
there.
my dick. That's
Ride my dick was his comment. They opened the floor to questions. Once we behaved in a way that they did not like, you saw I left when security asked me to leave. So let's go to this. For those of you who missed it, this has been on YouTube right now and kind of lit the internet ablaze. This was me as Cenk confronting Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. And we'll come back and discuss it.
And by the way, it was built by our audience. We asked them when we switched over from TV to online, can you guys help us build this? And our audience gave us $425,000 to build it.
What's this bullshit? What's going on here? I thought we were going to have a reasonable discussion. That's not the real Cenk. That's bullshit. I'm the real Cenk over here. It's supposed to happen. I had the J W married.
Okay, this is Steven
This
Crowder.
guy, this isn't the real Cenk. You think you're a man and genocide happened. It's bullshit. You know, you come out and start the panel.
Okay, so this is
this
is not a friend of mine.
What he is, okay?
This is what he does.
He's doing an impression, and you know that's bullshit. Okay?
Okay,
right?
He basically
what he does,
makes money.
If he makes money, he lies, right?
Riding my dick.
He rides my dick. So I do this homophobic stuff too, right? And I go, and then I feel like you're a homophobe, but really, you know, I guess you're really.
So security should remove him because his
you
whole
know,
living. But by the way, look at the strength of live streams. He makes a living by trying to copy me.
I know, right?
And get the right-wing critics. They're like, hey, look, I'm Cenk. Will you please watch me? Because he's so big.
time. I mean, live stream is getting divided. It's like cable, right? It's like there's lower numbers and.
Hey, maybe you should try to get your own show or your own panel?
I know, right? Like, I know, like this guy is right in my dick! It's bullshit! It's bullshit going around my dick! We're trying to have a reasonable discussion. And what he does...
But you're also taking up their time, Steve.
What he does... And they do it all like the Armenian genocide, like it happened, or there's like proof or evidence. Okay. Let's get out of here. This is getting all Let's go, listen, you'll get your turn, okay? Don't stop proud of my act. I'm just saying, this guy came in, right? Okay? Come on, get off stage, he's the real tank! It's bullshit! You know it's bullshit! Come on, you know it's bullshit. Listen.
You know what that is, Steve? That's the sound of silence, man.
Let's be reasonable.
This act is not working.
I know, right? It's supposed to look like a friendly audience. I'm used to this all the time.
You're dying out here, man.
I know, because, you know, it's all the writing jokes, you know? It's really work for this crowd. It's like, you know, you gotta get off stage, man. Get off stage.
By the way, there's no fun.
I'm just wondering. Oh, okay, so you're okay.
No, don't do it.
No, bro. I know. You're upset about it. It's cool.
So here's what happened. Alex Jones invaded our set kind of like this at the RNC. So now all these right-wing guys,
all these right-wing guys,
like all the right-wing audience, is
right,
not invading our set.
The only way they get numbers is by invading the Young Turks, because we get like 100 million views on YouTube. Come on. Every month.
No, actually,
Alex Jones came on our show, and it's bullshit. Okay? Like, it's not like, and by the way, like when I say bullshit, why it's like the word like like you know it's real talk, because it's like we're uncensored.
Okay, so
okay.
What's this guy's real name? Stephen Crowder.
I'm Jake.
That's exactly what he wanted.
That's exactly what he wanted.
That's why Alex Jones came on and said,
that's
the
the thing.
show's
It's
small.
like the right-wing guys,
So
like, come on,
he wants to come on a larger show. So they can say, oh, hey, I'm going to debate it.
My show's the biggest show. I'll never debate. I'm not going to sit and have other people.
And by the way, this is trespassing. What would a right-winger do if somebody trespassed?
I know, right? Like, you do it all the time. This is a serious problem.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
You want to talk about like the Armenian genocide?
Get out.
I'll come with you. I'll go with you. But I'm just saying, you guys gotta do like better background checks. But by the way, guys, you shouldn't tolerate like the f***ing hate speech with the dick riding, okay? Like, I know, like dick riding joke. You know, like what? It's fourth grade. Okay, come on. Fuck me.
That's a.
It's cute, right? I know. It's okay. Like that's what they. It's okay.
All right, so that's your cottage industry of our haters.
Cottage industry, like Alex Jones, right?
Big fan. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Can I get a selfie there, quick?
Sure, yeah, of course.
Big fan. Actually, oops, it's a video. Sorry. Thanks so much.
All right,
Appreciate
no problem.
everything you do.
All right, thank
Big
you,
fan,
brother.
even if your audience is dwindling.
Should have seen people wincing as they watched that. Here's the thing. You understand? When I had to grab that chair, it's once you're in it and you realize, like when you mentioned the Armenian genocide, he's not going to acknowledge it. Once you're in it, you have to commit to it.
Yeah, there's no going halfway.
No, there isn't.
You're gonna Babe Ruth swing for the fence.
Yes, as uncomfortable as it was.
It was even uncomfortable. I was like, ooh, it's like icky to watch.
Well, he was in there, and so was our video, and they were literally with their head down, like I can't believe. Because you know, if you go, usually when you speak, it's either an audience like stand up there, they'll laugh, or it's half. I realized, oh wait, everyone here hates me
a lot,
and then it's kind of liberating.
Yeah, once you just own it, like half the people in this room want to either kill me or
this room, Earth,
or tear my tongue out and shove it down my throat.
Yeah.
When you just own it, like acknowledge it, and you're 100% this is the way that's going to be, then you're free.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It is true, and it is. It's been a remarkable time here in Austin. One thing else I would like to leave. You know, we talk a lot about people online, and obviously people who leave. It really doesn't bother us that much, but a lot of people are all about haters online. One thing I'll say about South by Southwest, being surrounded by literally everything that I cannot stand. I was eating at a restaurant with Jared. We were at the balcony. We were on the balcony. We looked down. I said, you know, when you know, leftist 8585 on Twitter says, hey, you suck and I hate everything about you, you're like, oh, that kind of hurts my feelings. Until here at South by Southwest, you go, oh, it's the guy with the red beard and the spaces.
Dirty hipster.
It literally,
I
don't
care
care what he thinks. So
look at him.
Yes, doesn't that? Don't you feel that when you come into downtown Austin that it sort of liberates you in that sense? You're like, oh, I don't care what these people think about me. I don't want to be a member of this club.
I am always dumbfounded that people, that the haters are like, you know, Tim Kennedy, you're a baby killer, or you're so stupid, and you know, the things that they say online.
Yeah.
Just maybe one time somebody one time would say that, to me.
Yeah, but let's be honest. You talk to but you would talk with them. You would discuss with them. You're first, because you don't want to reinforce the idea that you're a meathead. Tim is a break, and you would talk with them, and then draw your own conclusions.
It would be a really fun conversation.
Yeah.
Like it would be one that would, I think, they'd be surprised that they're not going to be bloody up against the side of the wall. It would be a discussion.
Well, if Cenk Uygur were to come right now, people said, "How would you feel if he crashed the thing?" First off,
I would get up.
Our events have been crashed constantly. Yeah,
be like this.
Give it to him. Well, that's so you can reach him. Actually, he wrestled. Did you know that? Apparently, Turkish.
They can really tell by his shape.
Was he just counting on falling on people?
I don't know. Could have been sumo. But one thing, if he said, "Well, how would you feel if he crashed?" That's all we've ever wanted.
That'd be fantastic.
Is for him to
That'd be
crash
my favorite
here.
show.
Now, we don't violently disrupt the protest. We don't ever advocate for that.
No.
And of course, if someone has a stage and then they ask you to leave, at some point you leave, assuming they're not entirely BSing you. But right here, if we had protesters who wanted to have a discussion, we are always willing to. Now, if someone just wants to scream "baby killer" or someone wants to scream, AIDS-ridden faggot to him, then it becomes problematic to use their term. And the conversation ends, but we are always willing to entertain a form of ideas, and I appreciate that about you. Even though in a previous world you wouldn't have to, you would just chain them up to your doghouse and feed them when you felt like it.
Yeah, this is a new, wonderful. It's the new world.
Yeah,
the new world that lives under laws and beautiful laws that are founded with freedom.
Yeah,
and so why don't we?
Speaking of the new world. You don't wear contacts or anything, do you?
No.
You have good eye vision.
Perfect.
So you would have done really well in Game of Thrones times. I think you probably were born in the wrong era, right? You probably would have done better back then.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, or Not Gay Jared, just from the site, they would have tossed us over the castle wall and Reza Aslan would be eating our brains on a spit roast. That's a joke, by the way, cannibalism joke. Okay, did you see this, Reza Aslan? You haven't seen this, that's okay. No. Don't act like you have. It's okay, because it's bad. We'll talk about this and we'll leave this. Because this is, I think, the takeaway with South by Southwest, some of this, the hyper-intellectualism, and it requires you to be a hyper-intellectual to be this stupid. So Reza Aslan, Islamic scholar, I don't know how many degrees he has. He has a PhD, I believe. He does this show where he observes different cultures and religions. Well, he committed what I believe is a crime. He ate a human brain with a tribe. And the biggest crime,
Hindus?
I think...
Is that who does that?
Well, that's what he said, but you said, our EP said they don't do that, right?
No, it's a super small subsection.
Right, but he didn't really clarify that. But the point is, he ate human brains.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, it's not good. And here's the thing. I would trust to do this program more readily a cab driver from New Jersey, because he wouldn't be so hyperly intellectual to be that stupid, right? Reza Aslan sits there, you want to eat these brains? Well, I don't want to be intolerant, so I guess a cab driver from New Jersey? Go fuck yourself. I'm not eating brains. That's retarded.
That's dumb.
That's dumb. That's dumb. Hey, let's go drink a Schlitz, right? And we have reached a point where the hyper-intellectuals deny science, biology, as we thought Dr. Mike Simpson. The hyper-intellectuals deny basic human rights, like freedom of speech in the name of human rights. And they've become so tough. They don't know how to find their way back. Have you found that? It's gotten to a point. What do you do?
When you boil that down just to our existence. We live in a culture now where people don't know how a combustion engine works. Yeah. They don't know how to grow food. They don't know where their food comes from.
I know how to do one of those three things.
That's good. And the further you get up, the further away from reality people become. So education now doesn't really educate anyone. It just isolates them from reality.
Yeah.
Just like it's so easy to be a liberal when you're Nancy Pelosi and you're worth a few $100 million.
Right.
Because you're worth a few $100 million.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah.
I don't know that she's worth a few $100 million. I might have to fact check that. She's wealthy.
Yeah. Well, seeing how she's never had a real job and she's worth more than what her salary is as a public servant, $1 is too much.
It's true.
So when she's like, no, you shouldn't have a right to guns, but I'm surrounded by people with guns, that's the same kind of intellect. You get so far up there, you forget what reality really is.
Well, I think, we've talked about this, there are classical liberals, and there are conservatives, and there are maybe sort of Republicans, but this modern regressive leftism, it really is a byproduct for, and I know this is going to sound Darwinian, or this is going to, I don't mean it, and I don't mean it in the way that you're going to take it. It is a byproduct of there not being a culling.
Yeah, natural selection needs to happen.
I don't mean it needs to happen, but the point is, it is a byproduct of people who've never been told they're incorrect, who've never had their ideas challenged to this point, where we've gotten here. No one just stands up to say, no one in his team stood up to say, Reza? don't eat that brain. No one here stood up at that panel to say, huh? Freedom of speech is still kind of important. And you're still doing that on your podcast, right? What is the podcast?
It's the Sheepdog Project, and we I think if you were to boil it down to a single concept, it's just putting the teeth and the balls back in being American.
Yeah.
It's putting we're going to be the
Well, no,
country.
you don't want to put the teeth in the balls.
No, teeth and the balls.
Teeth and the balls.
Yeah, it's like, you know, like a barrel-chested freedom fighter.
That makes more
Teeth
sense.
in the Balls is actually the name of the bar that Not Gay Jared attends on Thursday, which is ladies' night.
It's Wednesday.
By ladies' night, I mean
They move it to Wednesdays.
men's night.
It sounds like a good time.
So, stop it. You would be such bait if you go in there, Tim. You know it. You can't. You would be less safe going in there than into ISIS's den.
That is saying something.
All right, so it is the Sheepdog Project, is your podcast?
Yep.
Sheepdog Project, Tim Kennedy, Dr. Mike Simpson. This was our live broadcast from South by Southwest. We'll have them back. If you're watching this on YouTube, louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub, where you can get the daily program.
Daily show every day.
Daily show every day, and a lot of exclusive footage that we couldn't reveal on the show. Thank you so much. Thank you, Not Gay Jared, and everyone who watched. We have to go. We're going to get the hell out of Dodge.
God bless America.
If Dodge was filled with self-loathing hipsters.